remember in high school, they used to ask me because of my last name, "What are you?" And I would tell them I'm Latina. Oh, I thought you were Greek, and they kept on with this thing about that I didn't look like the stereotype Latino that they had in their head. And I have to say that, you know, I don't want to be a hypocrite, but it was something that I kind of enjoyed because then I felt like I fit in with everyone else that was in school. So I said I blend right in. But then I felt like I was denying my Latina side. And I said, how terrible is that? But I always had to fight that, proving myself that I am Latina. So that was really difficult for me when I was in high school.
And I think high school for me, one of the things that I wanted to go back to was the fact that elementary school, I was in a class full of minorities. There were no one that I could think that was not Latino or not African American. So we were just a class of what people consider minorities. And when I got to high school, now I'm brought into the culture where there's Italians, Irish girls in the mix. So it was being Latina, yes, but I didn't feel any different. To me, it was.
We didn't know we were minorities.
But the other thing is, the only time I really felt about being Latina was when they wanted us to participate in the Hispanic Day cultural events. That's when I really oh, okay, so I'm Latina.
Right. That's right.
I always had those issues with identity because, you know, people love to say, oh, she looks Irish, you know, everything like that. And so you know, oh, you don't look Puerto Rican. And I would always think to myself, what does Puerto Rican look like? You know, I look at my mother looks like me. I look at my aunt doesn't look at all like me. She looks, you know, she's much more dark skinned. And then I look at some of my cousins who are like very, very pale with light eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, so what is this, you know, like, I know we are, but yet we don't fit that stereotype that other people say we're supposed to look like. Like, we are who we are. And so my, you know, kind of always my like wish list, which you know was always like the opposite of what popular culture would say, is I always wanted to be darker. Right. I would always say, you know, like I would always say, oh, I'm not that light, and you know, like comparing myself to other people, I'd be like, oh, you're lighter than me.
Well, you're right? Oh, you're you can't be Latina, right?
Yeah, right. And so, you know, like I was always wanting to look more, you know, Latina, to try to, you know, make my external fit the identity that I perceive myself as, because if people accepted me automatically, then that was like validation. Without that, then it was always like, you know, it was always a question, you know, always checking like my parents' birth certificate.
Exactly.
Let me check my birth certificate. Where were you? You know, like,
that's right.
Because you start to question it yourself. But that was like a big, like, you know.
I think, but I also think that it wasn't much in high school. I think we're still getting into the part where we're still learning about ourselves, and it was only later on when you go to college or when you go further up in education that you start to feel the difference. For me, because of I grew up in the Bronx. To me, the Bronx was a melting pot. So everybody lived with each other. You had your gangs, the Bronx was burning, but everybody still lived together and united, and that's the way we were. We grew up in a projects. We grew up in a building where there was 100, 200 families, and everybody was a different culture. So, but you got to live there, and you accepted each other, and you moved on.
But we didn't know we were minorities.
No,
so
we did not.
We didn't realize. I didn't grow up saying to myself, I'm a minority. Didn't feel that because everyone that lived around was also Latino or Black. So we never felt, there wasn't this big thing, this discussion of that you were minorities, a bunch of minorities. There wasn't even a stigma growing up. I don't know if it had to do with my household that we lived in the projects. So it wasn't like a bad thing for us. Like, you know,
it was
even
home.
when you said Bronx,
It was home.
Yeah, I mean, you constantly had a fight, either protecting the fact that you were Latina and protecting the fact that you are a minority, that you were. And I didn't feel those struggles when I was growing up. Like, people say, oh, that you don't know the struggle because you're white. I'm like, no, I'm Latina. And when they used to ask me, you know, racism, oh, that doesn't exist. It didn't exist in my world, in my little world.
But I agree with what you said, that I think as a child, as you're growing up, you don't see it. You do see it clearer later on in life. But I think as a child, other people are classifying you as Latina, as, you know, based on what you look like. But you're not as in tune with it because you don't know. You don't know those pockets of where they put you based on what you look like or maybe what accent you might have.
Right.
But I think it still went on. It went on. One of the experiences that I always had was kind of that surprise that, you know, you're smart. Like, wow, you're smart. And that kind of like, you know, that a surprise. And I always would say, well, are we not supposed to be? Am I not supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why does that surprise somebody that I can actually do well in the Regents or academically? Am I not supposed to be? So where you were thinking about that in terms of the club, you know, let me check the birth certificate. I was thinking about that because, you know, we were very fortunate. My parents were educators and we did well in school. So when we, all four of us did very well in school, and we always got that like, wow.
But you just reminded me of something. I'm sorry, but you reminded me of something that did happen in high school. But it wasn't from my age group. It was from one of the teachers. Something that had happened in my educational years, that I was asked whether I really had studied for an exam compared to the other girls who were not minorities in class, because I got better grades than they did on one of the exams. And how did we do that? And I thought, is she accusing me of cheating? Why? Because, why? And it really bothered me that I had to have a discussion with her. Why do you think that I was not worthy of getting this grade? Mm-hmm. Oh, because, you know, at the end, her summation to me, it felt like that was not expected of me.
Right. They were shocked when you did well. As a Latina, they were shocked.
And that is, I think, always that expectation that you're not seen as this whole person that have all those capabilities. You're put into an expectation and you have to constantly reprove and outgrow that expectation. And it is a lifelong struggle. You see it in school in one way, you see it in education, in your college years a different way, and you see it in your career a different way. But you're always trying to get out of that stereotypical box of how others view you as opposed as to who you are as a human being.
Right.
But on the flip side, I have to say though, educationally, and at least for grammar school and high school, I never, other than that one experience, I really didn't feel it that much. It was only for me as I went outside of my local community and went to college. Now I had to transport myself an hour and a half on bus to a different situation, and that's where I really felt overwhelmed at that point. Because they sort of put us in a group, oh, you need financial assistance. Yes, I needed financial assistance for college, but what made you think that I needed educational assistance? Because I was a minority? Because that's what they pretty much classified you in. And I loved the program I was in, I'm not gonna knock it, but I felt that it was just grouping or lumping the only people that were a minority of Hispanic culture into this program, even though I could remember some of the people in my class being some of the top people in high school. So how is it that they ended up, because they needed educational assistance? It didn't make sense to me.
It's funny because I thought financial aid when I was going from high school to college and I was filling out my papers for financial aid, I didn't think of it. I didn't think of the words financial aid. I thought those were scholarships they were giving you because you were, you know, and not even because you were Latina. Oh, you apply for this, they give you money. Didn't think of it as that. But once you got into that college mode and you knew you would have that you had financial aid, you noticed everyone else that had financial aid were either the Latinos and the Blacks. You rarely saw anyone else unless they were on a scholarship. I didn't know anybody else that.
And in college, though, the other thing is that you sort of tend to, because the camp is now so diverse, but you're outnumbered. I look at it now. Now I'm saying, as a Latina, I felt outnumbered in college. Growing up in an environment of elementary and high school where I felt comfortable in my own skin because I was surrounded by everybody that sort of like grew up like me, even though we had some, like I said, Irish girls, Italian girls, or other ethnicities within our group. I felt comfortable. Now I don't feel comfortable. Now I feel like I'm outnumbered. And so what did we do? The Latinos saw
You always got,
if there was,
always
if
like a
you always
magnet.
saw the cafeteria table where the Latinos were at, or where the other groups were at, that's where everybody tended to go. Because that's the way you felt.
Because you felt comfortable there, you felt accepted there. I think when we stepped out of that comfort with our friends and the people that were like us, I think somehow you were made to feel, and I don't think it's always done intentionally. I don't believe that, but I think there is something there's always that constant, okay, you're out of your culture, you have to prove yourself. You represent the Latina. So if I am the only Latina in this theology class or in this sociology class or in this math class, and there's 2 of us out of 20, when I make a mistake, I'm not making a mistake as me as my individual. I'm not making mistakes. Maybe because you are a Latina, I feel sometimes like I'm representing this whole group
Right.
of people.
Carry it on your shoulders.
I'm carrying it on my shoulders, where I should be seen as this one person who, didn't get it right, maybe needed clarification. And within your group, we all understood that once you stepped out of the group, the rules were different. The rules were different, and I don't think anybody told us how to play the rules, but they sure were different, and you had to learn how to play it sometimes. Sometimes tripping over yourself, sometimes making mistakes, but you do learn it.
But
Those
it's-
societal norms.
But another thing that I realized, like with my girls, even from the time they were young in school, you always try to emphasize to them, they knew they were Latina, they were very proud of it. Mama, as a Latina, you're always gonna have a little harder. You gotta study a little bit more, you gotta prove yourself. And they understood that. And I don't remember ever getting that conversation from my parents. I never got that conversation from my parents.
Well, I think, my perspective was different because my mother was very conscious of that.
Right.
So around the dinner table, my mother would say, this is the new word for the day. I went to work today and the supervisor was talking about this and talking about that. And, she ate this for dinner, so tonight we're going to eat this for dinner. We're like, you don't even like that food, Mom? Why are you eating that? And she's like, that's what white people eat. So you're going to eat it, and when you go out to a restaurant, you're going to know what they're talking about. And Mom was like, oh. So everybody's like, exactly. It was like, she would come home with crazy, like my mom's because, she didn't know. So her, she would hear something that they said, and to her, this is high culture now.
Right.
This is high society stuff, so now you need to know
Right.
this because this is going to equip you to move into their world. So that was like drilled in.
Right.
I'm like literally like in 3rd grade, and it's today's she would do words,
Right.
like new words that she had learned, and we would like talk about them at dinner. So that she
Wow.
would, so that she would say like this is how they talk. If we like try to use slang, she would have a fit. No, we don't talk like that here. And I don't even make like so our big cultural dishes. She would make like chili con carne. Because she said it like that, right? Because it was like, she heard it like said it in that way, so she thought it was a different dish. So she would say, oh, we're gonna have that. And it was like, oh, the way she would make it, she got a recipe.
Right.
She got a recipe and she's like, measuring everything out. And pepper steak.
Right.
She heard, there's this thing called pepper steak.
Which is really carne guisada. It's really carne guisada, but when you call it pepper steak.
Exactly. It was like these things that she would get these recipes that she would make them, and they would be horrible ideas. Nobody liked them. They'd always be like, oh, can we go to grandma's house? We want to eat. Yeah. But she would do it, and she would have a sit with those. So it was like always like
Right.
that. Like
That's
this
wild.
is culture, and this is you need to know their thing, and that was
And my
always.
mom was so different because my mom would say, yes, we accept and we love that other culture, but boy, you gotta remain with your culture.
Right.
The rice, the beans, the ropa vieja, the picadillo. Speaking Spanish at home, you're gonna learn English. You are gonna be able to flow into that world.
Right.
But you can never forget who you are. You can never forget that grain of who makes you. Because the minute you forget that, you're not being true to yourself.
My mom
think-
was the opposite.
But
My
you
mom
know-
was like, you leave that shit at the door, and you leave when you go out. You don't bring that anywhere.
Y cuando hablas español, lo hablas bien. Lo hablas bien,
But
y que no se te olvide.
the thing I think with our household that was different, because I'm looking and I'm thinking, your parents were Cuban, your parents were Puerto Rican, but we had a mix. So we had, there were days we had Puerto Rican food, where there were days that we had food that my mother cooked that was designed that was many from Spain. And then when she went to work, she had an Italian boss and they cooked Italian food. So my mother now came home with Italian food. So it was, even though it was, she didn't gear, or they didn't gear towards one way, because we weren't really indoctrinated with, you're Latina. We were told we're Hispanic.
We knew we were Latina, but it wasn't something that my father or my mother actually came out and said, it's gonna be a hindrance on you. You know, you're really gonna be held back because of that.
All they kept on saying, my father used to, I remember my father primarily saying, you gotta just do well in school.
Yeah.
Do well in school.
That I got.
Get your education, because that's what's gonna gear you towards your future. It's either education or work.
Yeah, and he would tell us, all I can leave you and he'd tell us, as he didn't care that we were females, he didn't have any sons.
No.
He didn't care that he treated us as the same way as though he would have had a son. And he would tell us, all I can leave you is education. That's all I have. I can give you an education, and that's all I have. But with him, I remember in high school, after sophomore year, they give you a choice, business or academics for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, Papa, I think I'm gonna do the academics. He goes, no, you're gonna do the business. You're gonna do the business. He says, because you're gonna be bilingual, and then you can find a job anywhere. And he was right, because from the age of 16, it was such a benefit. That's why I'm saying that it was hard for me, because it was such a benefit to be bilingual. And then I didn't realize how important that was even as a teenager, how important that was. It was great, because I was a translator for my mother at hospitals. I remember translating for my mother, like what she felt, all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, I'm good.
Yeah,
you know, I'm really good. I can do this. But I think that indirectly, my father was kind of telling us, if you're gonna succeed, you really gotta go the business way of things, or anything to make money. And because the academic part was not gonna do it. And I guess that's from experience. But my father knew Spanish and he knew English.
He was
from
raised
Puerto Rico. He was raised. He learned. He had gotten a good bilingual education in Puerto Rico, something that a lot of people don't do now. But he always enforced that on us, and for us, it was normal. It wasn't something that I have to say, like the Latina, to say, wow, it has so many benefits. No, it was normal for us. Like, I thought I was a brainiac by the time I was in college, because I knew 2 languages.
But it was all because
it
was just reinforced education, and geared towards it. But it reminds me of the fact that I remember at 6, I grew up, first language was Spanish, but because of my sisters and because of the television and kindergarten, I learned English. And I was supposed to go to the advanced first grade class. Well, Lord and behold, we go on vacation and I'm speaking Spanish for 2 months. I come back, oh, I'm sorry, she can't go to the advanced class. She has to go to the...
Because you were Spanish.
Yeah, because
now she was too...
I got all Spanish. I became
too Latina.
Too Latina.
Yeah.
All I spoke was Spanish coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other segment of it is beyond that. Now I'm going to go further in my education, where I'm in an advanced program for my degree, for my law degree, and I'm studying for my law degree, and that's when I really felt, the first time I actually felt that there was an issue about me being Latina, because I got along with everybody, and I was in an environment where there was only 2 Latinas in my class out of 100 and something students in the evening. And I had a great relationship with a lot of my classmates. I have to say that I had a great relationship with my classmates and my professors. But one day I'm talking to some people I have met, and I'm speaking I spoke in English. That was my language. I spoke in English. I always remember though, that's my primary language, but my first language was Spanish. And the people I grew up with, even if we were kids and now we're adults, we still spoke Spanish to each other, because that's the way we assimilated a lot when we were growing up, with our parents there and all of us speaking. And somebody heard me say something to somebody I ran into that I grew up with, talking to them in Spanish. And somebody looked at me and go, wow, you speak Spanish really good as a second language. And look and I go, no, it's my first language. Your first language? Yes, I'm Latina. Oh. And then the next day it's like, hey, how are you? And they keep talking. They don't talk to me anymore like they used to talk to me. And I was like, wow, that's the first time I actually felt that being Latina, now somebody's saying, oh no, you can't talk to them kind of attitude. But I said, you know what, ignorance is bliss sometimes, because they don't know they don't know what I was going to be capable of doing in my life, and it's fine with me, because if you couldn't deal with me being Latina, I don't need to be dealing with you because of your ignorance.
My experience was, my mother conflated both, because my mother and father, neither were really highly educated. So my father didn't graduate from high school. He couldn't read. My mother barely graduated from high school. So my dad was a doorman and janitor. He had to work 2 jobs when we were growing up. My mom worked, 11, 9, she worked at a job. So for her, Latina and class and socioeconomic circumstances were combined.
Oh, okay.
So she saw, and then in her surroundings, the people that she saw, her people that she grew up with were similarly in that socioeconomic, position and educational position. So she saw that as this is what we're emerging from. This is what, I'm vaulting you up out of. Mm-hmm. So that was very much the context of it. It was like I was saying, it was you leave that shit at home. When you walk out that door, all of this and everything that's this, it stays here. And when you go out, you're using your words of the day, and you're conducting yourself in that manner because, she would have a fit if my father spoke Spanish to her outside. She would be like, she was trying to ignore him, and he's talking to her, and she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, don't look at him, don't look at him.
Isn't that helpful?
Yeah, because she was because she conflated the two, so she was and for her, English was the primary language. She didn't want anything to do with us learning Spanish, because she was you're not going to grow up with an accent. She was you're not going to have, the cuchifrito. She was you're going to be just like them. You're going to go out there and you're going to,
But for her, she thought that she was helping you break some type of cycle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She saw this as this is it. She's stopping the cycle and she's vaulting us up out.
Right.
And and that was really what her mission was. And I still make her crazy when I embrace our identity. She's always oh. And then when I try to, when I talk to the babies about it and stuff like that, she's always she's they're not going to be talking like that at all. And when the nanny talks to them in Spanish, she has a fit. She has a fit.
Isn't that something? No, I think that's incredible, that the mentality when it comes to it, because your parents want you always to do better. But I think that's such a big conflict, that as with, not only as a Latina, but even as women, because you think, you fall into the stereotype that you say you gotta prove yourself as a woman, but then as a Latina, but to have that double conflict as a woman and as a Latina, and do you keep it back? Don't you tell anybody? You're afraid even sometimes to say that you're Latina for certain things.
Well, I think that was part of the
and I
transition.
She was actually, if you come to look at what your mother was doing, was trying to help you what she confronted, so it wouldn't happen to you.
Exactly.
And it's
shielding you from what could happen.
Shielding
you from that.
Right. And it's something too, in it, I see that she has some very deep scars that she doesn't talk about.
Right.
Right.
She was probably made to feel somehow inferior because of this beauty.
Exactly. When she came over from PR, she felt, she was scarred in that process.